ASML is a company that's very important in the chip ecosystem.
Yes.
We haven't really talked about them a lot on this program, but they do hold damn near monopoly on the EUV technology, and a lot of companies actually get their tech through. They're like one of these companies that's like a gateway company. And during the pandemic, they ran up crazy during the pandemic, but they're down 30% from a high of 1,100 to around 750. So we've talked about NVIDIA. We've talked about NVIDIA a lot. We talked about TSM, but ASML is another one of these chip making equipment companies that's vitally important to the ecosystem. Like I said, they almost have a monopoly in their niche.
Yeah.
So, what is the prognosis for ASML?
No one wants to say it, but we are in a chip recession. So everything is coming down. NVIDIA, once they didn't over deliver on Blackwell, which I think they will next year, it brought the entire space down. I can see ASML going to 672.72.
Oh, what'd you say?
ASML
672?
672?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very probable. Okay. So that would be one area I would look to load to both. If you were at InvestFest, tons of value. I gave you 8 levels where to get in on stage live, and a 9th one as a bonus, because shout to you who asked what's another level. You can plot how to map out your own levels there, or you can go to eninvest.com, get the replay, or go to investfest.com and get the replay and see how to map these levels out for yourself. But we are in a chip recession. If we look back even 2 years ago, they were at 388. To go from 388 to then 1,100, in order to have exponential returns, you have to continue to deliver an exponential product, which they have done. But once you miss one revenue beat one time, we're going to have a pullback. So I think we're just correcting to the levels that it should be. But do they have a legal monopoly? Absolutely. Is it one of the ones that we haven't talked about on here a lot? Absolutely. But I've talked about it endlessly in Stock Club. So 672.72 is where I will look to build a position if you're new into it. And let's be honest, like, a stock can't run from 200 to 1,200 and then continue to go to 2,400. Like, you're outside of mathematical probabilities and mathematical laws. Like, if a stock goes up 500%, another thing I talked about on stage, knowing where to take profit. If you hit 5x, take some profit, take 50% off the table, let the rest run, add to back to the position, and you'll be a-okay.
Yeah, ASML is something, we spoke about, and I'm glad you said you spoke about it in Red Panda. We definitely spoke about it in our calls in EYLU.
Gatekeeping.
Yeah, but you know what? We spoke about it here first on Market Mondays, and I'm glad that we're bringing it up again because it's important so people can understand how this works. Yes, NVIDIA has chips. Yes, Taiwan Semiconductor is the one that produces it, but there's a machine that creates those chips. And so ASML, in a sense, when you say monopoly, it's because they have the technology right now that can create the nanometer chips for TSM to now provide NVIDIA. And so they're not American. and when we're talking about imports and exports, these things come into play. And so if it's a Dutch company, and so if you figure if it has to ship to China, if it has to ship to America, and there's geopolitical tensions, they're going to be affected directly. On top of it, a company like ARM comes into the space, and now we're looking at this as, hey, maybe they're not the only player inside of the space. But is it when you see obviously companies pull back, and it's one of these cases where we watched NVIDIA get pulled back two weeks ago, and it was like, well, why really? The guidance is there. They're telling you guys to triggering out. We just saw a Broadcom report last week, and I put some numbers in on Broadcom, and we watched them put back, and the guidance is there, and the revenue is there. So what? We talked about it. September is a volatile month.
It's a rough month.
Over the past 10 years, out of all the months in a calendar year, September has been the most volatile and has produced a negative 2.3% return over the past 10 years. And so we're in September. We talked about quadruple witching. We talked about rate cuts last week with all that happening. You're seeing semis which have led for the past 12 months. They're slightly pulling back. Does this mean that they're going anywhere? Absolutely not. Does this mean you shouldn't invest? Absolutely not. But you got to pick your points. And we're getting to some of those levels where it's like, all right, this is a good position. I'm glad you said the number 672. Good number to be in it. But if you're looking at it long term, the dollar cost averaging anyway. And so it's one of those companies that we put it on our watch list. I feel like we did this in maybe June of 2020. So a lot of people maybe have had that run up and celebrated from that run up. But yeah, I think it's something you still stay in. It's a company that is definitely going to be a part of the ecosystem when it comes to AI and definitely when it comes to making chips.
Continue to hold for the long term. Stop buying things when they're at a hype or a high, and you'll be okay. Like no company will defy mathematical averages. You can't go up 14x in a 4-year period or 11x and then not have a retracement. These are the areas in which you should be looking to buy. If you are not disciplined, you're going to die. But if you are disciplined, you'll profit. I think is that simple. But yeah, I think they have a monopoly because they are really the supplier to the rest of the chip space. And the Dutch, they know a lot about that import-export business, don't they?
So they would. So
that's crazy.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as like a company that you'd be interested in buying, like I said, it's already dropped 30%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where would it be?
And the chip space, NVIDIA will be number 1 for sure. TSM 2, ASML probably will be 3. A lot volatile. So if you're putting a lot of money into it, you're going to have to stomach some of those drops. And like where you buy matters a hell of a lot. Even if I zoom out a little bit further, I mean, if they go to 612, I throw a bag at it. 612, but 672, I'm very interested in it, but it's third because of the volatility. They're like the Tesla of this space in terms of volatility, not management, but how the price action moves on it. The days when it's running up incredibly well, you're going to be very happy, but on the days where it's sliding down, you're going to hate it. Just inside of this quarter, we've gone from 1110 down to 749. I don't care how much financial discipline you think you have. Let's say if you have $200,000 invested, it's hard to sit through a drawdown like that. $400 wide almost.
Yeah.
If this is an assembly line, like they're part of the assembly line. Like it's tough to produce at the levels you want if they're not a part of the assembly line, because, and even we'll take like other companies, they don't have the technology to make the nano wafer. So like the wafer, think of it as like a Eggo waffle, right? Like that's what this is. Like these large sheets that they put the semis on, they have the machines that actually make them. And so if you don't have the person that makes the sheet, then you don't have anywhere to put the chip on. And so it's an assembly, like the ecosystem. I probably have, it's definitely in my top 5. I definitely have it.
Absolutely.
It's in my portfolio now. Just full disclaimer, it's in my portfolio. But yeah, it's definitely in top 5. It's part of the assembly.
Well, and going even to the election night recap episode, for those who you guys should stick to what you know. Presidents and the cabinet will decide policy, which then affects the market. But think of it like this: ASML dropped almost 400 points to show you how big the geopolitical tensions are. Their profit margins is 29%. So if your profit margin is 29% and you're pretty much the manufacturer for the entire space that matters the most, what is going on politically worldwide that is not being revealed yet? They keep lying about these jobs numbers. So we'll see. Amazing company though.
Yeah. Yep. Intel, TSM, Samsung, they all buy
clients, right?
Their products from them. So